They said the screams came through the comms like static at first, quiet, shaky bursts that no one took seriously. Another colony in distress, maybe pirates, maybe just a system glitch. Earth Command logged the message like it always did. But when the same message pulsed through 6 more colonies within a 48-hour window, even the hardened officers in Strategic Command began to shift in their seats. The voice in the transmission wasn't human. It was something raspier, thinner, as if the speaker had to force every syllable through shattered lungs. It begged for help, begged Earth for aid. It ended every broadcast with the same desperate phrase: "We die, we scream, send your monsters." Nobody could quite explain why that last part sent a chill down the spine of even the most jaded officers. Earth didn't have diplomats anymore, not in this part of the galaxy. The outreach missions, the Galactic Peace Accord efforts, all of that fell apart decades ago. Now Earth had warriors, trained in silence, raised in conflict zones, built not for conversation, but for decisive ends. So when the alien screams reached Earth's War Council, there was no vote. They knew exactly who to send. The 104th Detachment, known in classified files as the Black Zone, were deployed. They were a unit not celebrated, not honored. They weren't part of any public parade. Their missions never made the news feeds. Most of them had been declared dead long ago, and for good reason. These men, broken, violent, unfit for normal service, had one job: win wars others wouldn't even start. Captain Rowan stood in silence as the ship left Earth's orbit. His face was lined with more scars than most soldiers earned in a lifetime. Across from him sat men like Mace, half-blind but deadly with a pulse rifle, and Thorn, who once burned down an entire rebel village when his unit was compromised. No one spoke. They didn't need to. They were used to being forgotten, being sent where others refused to go, and they were used to doing what others couldn't live with. The briefing came on-screen once the ship crossed into neutral territory. A synthetic voice explained the situation. A mid-tier alien race called the Yarnethi had made first contact decades ago. They were peaceful, agricultural, spread across 3 moons, nothing militarized, no threat to anyone. Until now. Their transmissions mentioned a force known only as the Crows. No species records matched, no sightings logged, just one disturbing detail. Every Yarnethi colony sent the same message, right before they went silent. No survivors, no ships in orbit, just dust and silence. "Why us?" Thorn finally asked. Rowan cracked his neck. "Because Earth's tired of pretending we care who started what. We're not here to ask questions. We're here to end it." The ship dropped out of warp just above Yarneth 3, and what they saw pulled even hardened killers to the edge of their seats. The surface had been scorched black. Buildings, if you could call them that, lay in crumpled heaps. Heat signatures were nearly zero. No signs of life. But what disturbed them wasn't the destruction. It was what remained. Massive symbols carved into the soil, perfect circles, lines that stretched for miles, and in the center of the largest one stood a spire, metallic, humming, and pulsing a dull red. It wasn't Yarnethi tech, and it sure as hell wasn't human. Rowan gave the order. "Boots on the ground, stay sharp. If something's still breathing down there, we make damn sure it stops." As they descended, wind screamed across the valley. Ash blew in horizontal lines. The air was toxic. Every step crunched on burned remains. They reached the spire. Then the spire spoke. Not in words, not in language, but in pain. Every man in the detachment dropped to one knee as agony shot through their minds. Memories of war, death, screams from fallen brothers, regrets they thought buried long ago. Rowan clenched his teeth so hard they cracked. Then, just as suddenly, the pain vanished. The spire began to shift, its metal form unfolding like a predator stretching after a long sleep. And then came the voice again, not through the spire, but through the helmet radios. "You sent monsters." "Good. Now let's see if they bleed." Rowan staggered to his feet, shaking the last waves of nausea from his gut. The spire's hum faded into the ash-thick silence, but that voice, deep, ancient, soaked in something darker than hatred, still echoed through the comms. Around him, the 104th Detachment regained formation. Their eyes were wild. Sweat ran down necks that rarely trembled. These men had faced warlords, nukes, insurgents, starvation, torture. But this was something else. Mace spit blood. "That thing, whatever it is, it just crawled inside my goddamn brain." Rowan's eyes never left the spire. "That was a test. It wanted to taste us, see what Earth really sent." "Yeah?" Thorn muttered. "Then let's show it the rest of the menu." They moved in a staggered line, rifles raised, perimeter tight. The Yarnethi spire, once cold and inert, now pulsed with an inner life, red veins of energy flowing like molten lava under its shell. Tech sensors couldn't classify the material. It wasn't metal, it wasn't stone, and it wasn't from this solar system. The entrance cracked open like a jaw. No words, no threats, just an invitation. Rowan tapped the side of his helmet. "Command, this is Captain Rowan of the 104th. We've got non-Earth origin tech here, possible sentient artifact. Proceeding inside for threat neutralization." Static. No response. He tried again. More static. Mace glanced at his wristcom. "We're being jammed. Nothing's getting out." Thorn chuckled without humor. "Typical. No way back. Just forward." Rowan didn't hesitate. Then forward it is. Inside, the spire was impossibly larger than it appeared. Dim lights pulsed through fleshy walls. The architecture felt alive, breathing, moving slightly, as if reacting to their presence. The floor squelched under their boots. There were no consoles, no control panels, no signs of Yarnethi life. But the symbols carved into the walls, they were Earth symbols. Rowan paused. "Is that Russian?" Mace leaned closer. "Old military code. Cyrillic script. Some of this looks pre-fall. That's Cold War era." Thorn's voice dropped. "What the hell's Russian Black Ops doing etched into alien walls?" Nobody answered. They reached a central chamber. At its center stood a figure, strapped to a vertical slab, arms spread wide. At first glance it looked Yarnethi, tall, thin, elongated limbs. But the skin, it was flayed open in sections, revealing metal beneath. And inside its chest cavity, Earth tech, a human military-grade uplink node. Rowan took a step forward. The figure's head jerked up, eyes opened, and it smiled. "You sent your butchers. You always do," it rasped, lips torn and dry. Rowan leveled his rifle. "What are you?" The smile widened, inhumanly so. "I'm the last Yarnethi, or what's left of him. They took me, used me to talk to you. They love your kind. The rage, the memories. You're more honest than the rest of this galaxy." Mace snarled. "Who are they?" The figure didn't respond with words. Instead, the lights in the chamber shifted. Walls retracted. And suddenly, they saw it. A massive organic structure floated in space just outside the Yarnethian moon, pitch black, spined, like a dying god's corpse held together by hate alone. It hadn't been there before. It had been cloaked. Now it revealed itself. A ship, a fortress, a graveyard, and it was watching. The figure laughed. "They built me to call you. They knew you would come. Earth always comes, not with help, not with peace, with weapons." Rowan felt it in his gut. This whole mission was a trap. "Pull out," he ordered. "Everyone back to the drop point." But as they turned to leave, the spire's walls slammed shut. Red mist hissed from hidden vents. Masks went up, but too late. Thorn stumbled first, his gun clattering to the floor. Mace followed, knees buckling as he screamed. Rowan injected a stimulant, stayed on his feet. The voice returned. Inside their heads now, not over comms. "You kill. You burn. You win. Let us see what made you." Darkness swallowed him whole. He woke up in a room that wasn't real. It looked like his childhood bedroom, but wrong. Too clean. Too bright. The walls shimmered like water. His rifle was gone, his armor stripped. Only his thoughts remained. A voice echoed from nowhere. "Tell us why you kill." Rowan growled, "Who the hell are you?" No answer, just scenes flashing across the walls, memories that weren't his, alien wars, planets consumed, species extinguished. Each time a pattern emerged, the same presence behind it all. The crows, not a race, not a fleet, a force, an intelligence that fed on war itself. Rowan understood now. They didn't hate Earth. They loved Earth. Because humans were the best at what they craved: destruction, vengeance, endless blood. The crows didn't invade colonies to conquer. They pushed just far enough to get Earth involved, just enough to call the monsters. Rowan saw another image now, Earth's secret fleet, moving into Yarnithi space, hundreds of warships, thousands of soldiers, all walking into the trap. He screamed and woke up. The chamber was dark again. The figure was gone. Only Mace and Thorn remained, chained to the walls by tendrils of black matter. Their eyes were open, but not alive. The red mist hissed again. Rowan's vision blurred, but he fought it, tore free from the strange slime holding him down. His muscles screamed in protest. Every cell in his body wanted to collapse, but his soul burned. He dragged himself to Mace. The man was muttering, "Don't go! Don't go in! Don't send them!" Rowan slapped him hard. "Mace! Snap out of it!" Mace's eyes focused for a second. "They're feeding, Cap. Off us. Off our guilt." Rowan remembered the mission on Titan Delta. The village, the screams, the orders he gave. He shoved the guilt down, buried it under rage. "They want monsters?" he snarled. "They got one." Rowan didn't hesitate. He moved. Each step brought pain. Each wall whispered memories. The time he left a wounded soldier behind. The orders he gave that led to innocent deaths. All the decisions that carved pieces out of him until nothing remained but steel and hate. He accepted it. He didn't want redemption. He wanted revenge. At the bottom of the spire was a pit. Inside it, something massive pulsed, a living brain suspended in black fluid, and around it dozens of alien corpses, Yarnithi, human, even species he didn't recognize, all wired in, feeding it. He raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the brain spoke. Not with sound, but with Rowan's own voice. "We are you. We are the echo of every war you won. You made us." The ground split open. Clawed limbs reached up. Creatures, formed from the memories of Earth's wars, began to rise. Not real, but real enough. A Russian sniper from the Cold War. A flame trooper from the Mars Uprising. A drone operator who massacred a wedding in the name of precision strikes. All of them. Him. Rowan screamed and opened fire. He tore through illusions, flesh, metal. The pit erupted. Black fluid splashed the walls. The brain thrashed, but didn't die. It spoke once more, gasping. "You are the gift Earth gave us. Now, send more." And then it collapsed. The spire shook. Systems failed. The structure began to tear apart. Rowan ran. He grabbed Mace and Thorn, dragged them through fire and collapsing corridors. The walls no longer whispered. They screamed. A dropship still waited at the edge of the landing zone, scarred, scorched, but functional. He threw his team inside and powered up the controls. The spire vanished behind them in a violent collapse, sucked into the ground like a dying heart. As they ascended, a dozen more crow ships uncloaked in orbit. But none attacked. Instead, they turned and left. Rowan sat in silence. Mace groaned. "We made it?" Rowan didn't answer, because he knew the truth. The crows didn't need to win. They'd already gotten what they came for. They saw Earth's monsters, and they loved them. The dropship burned across the sky, trailing smoke and cracked hull plating. Emergency systems howled, flashing red in sync with Rowan's heartbeat. He kept one hand on the manual flight stick and the other gripping the edge of his seat so tight his knuckles looked like bone. Behind him, Mace was still half-conscious, twitching in his restraints. Thorn hadn't moved in minutes. They were alive, but only barely. As the ship broke atmosphere and sailed past the Yarnethian moon, Earth's fleet came into view. Staggered in formation, powerful, overwhelming, hundreds of warships from the Sol Dominion, all gleaming steel and nuclear engines. Each one was loaded with dreadnoughts, planetary breachers, orbital disruptors, Earth's full show of force. And they were heading straight into the jaws of a trap. Rowan slammed a fist on the comm panel. "Fleet Command, this is Captain Rowan, 104th Detachment. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage Yarneth 3 or anything in orbit. It's a trap. It's always been a trap." No answer. Then static. Then the brief flicker of a transmission. "Captain Rowan, your signal is unauthorized. The 104th Detachment is presumed KIA. Return to base immediately or prepare to be boarded." Rowan's blood went cold. They'd already buried them. Officially, the 104th was marked dead before they ever touched down on Yarneth 3. That's why they'd been chosen. No cleanup, no questions. Just ghosts doing dirty work for politicians who wanted plausible deniability. They'd been sacrificed from the start. Rowan leaned back in his seat, staring at the fleet on the horizon. "They're not going to listen." Mace coughed behind him. "What do we do now, Cap?" Rowan looked at him, eyes hard. "We go rogue." Back aboard the fleet, Admiral Granger stood on the bridge of the command carrier Revenant's Oath, flanked by pristine officers with polished uniforms and unreadable faces. The Yarnethi system stretched across the view screen like a map waiting to be claimed. "Status?" he asked. "Orbital scans show mass destruction on Yarneth 3. No Yarnethi defense systems detected. All previous colonies appear obliterated. No signs of human presence." Granger nodded. "So we hit hard, clean up, and send the message Earth always sends." The comms officer hesitated. "We did receive an unauthorized ping from a 104th signal. It came from Yarneth 3. Granger's eyebrow rose. "I thought the 104th was already dead." "They should be." Granger turned back towards the stars. "Ignore it. If it's real, they'll come back with proof. If it's bait, we're not biting." But they were biting. Every second the fleet moved forward was another second closer to the web of crow ships waiting beyond normal scan range, cloaked, patient, hungry, The crows didn't want to destroy Earth's forces. They wanted to watch. They wanted to study the monsters in action. Rowan didn't head for Earth. He set a course for the outer asteroid belts, where he knew the Dominion wouldn't follow. They were bleeding fuel and leaking atmosphere, but the ship held long enough to land inside a hollowed asteroid base, the kind used during the Silent Rebellion, a war Earth now pretended never happened. They patched Thorn with whatever medical supplies they could find. Mace was talking more now, though he looked half-drained, like some part of him had never really left that spire. Rowan connected to one of the old relay satellites buried in the asteroid's rock. It wasn't Dominion networked, but it could send a pulse. He recorded a message, a warning, a confession. He told them everything. The spire, the crows, the truth behind the Yarnethi massacre. He didn't bother with protocol. He didn't dress it up. He ended the message with one line. Earth isn't saving the galaxy. It's feeding something worse than war itself. Then he sent it across every black market channel in the quadrant. Hackers, pirate dens, rebel networks, smugglers, anyone who'd listen. The Dominion would kill him for it if they ever caught him. But at least the truth would spread. Mace paced behind him. They'll brand us traitors. Rowan looked up. We've always been traitors. Just depends on whose story they write. Thorn stirred, groaning. They're watching, even now, in our heads. I feel it. Rowan nodded. I know, but let 'em watch. We'll show them something they won't forget. 3 days passed. The Dominion fleet launched a full assault on Yarneth 3. Nothing fired back, no resistance, no signs of life, just empty ground and hollow moons. And then the disappearances began. First, a recon ship vanished from the edge of the system. No distress call, no wreckage. Then a full destroyer went dark. Then 2 more. Admiral Granger ordered a system-wide sweep. But it was too late. The crow ships revealed themselves, not to fight. They just mirrored the fleet, copied their formations, projected mock transmissions using distorted voices from Earth's own logs. They played recordings of Earth's past massacres, broadcast across all channels, names, dates, coordinates. The Dominion soldiers who heard it? Some went mad, some started shooting at shadows. Some simply froze. The crows weren't killing Earth's warriors. They were turning them against themselves. One battleship's crew opened every airlock. Another launched nukes at its own carriers. Rowan watched the transmissions from the asteroid station. He saw everything. Mace leaned beside him. They're not trying to win. They're showing Earth what it really is. Rowan's voice was flat. The monsters they love. They couldn't stay hidden forever. A stealth Dominion scout eventually tracked their energy signature. The asteroid base was breached. They came in hard. 6 soldiers, black ops, armor sealed, and voices filtered. Captain Rowan, you're under arrest for treason against the Sol Dominion. Rowan didn't flinch. Go ahead. But ask yourself, why would they send you to kill a dead man? The lead soldier paused. That was all Rowan needed. He moved. 2 shots. One to the chest. One to the leg. Mace covered him, spraying plasma fire down the corridor. Thorn, barely walking, dragged himself to the emergency override and blew the outer airlock behind the squad, sending 2 of them into space. It was ugly, fast, brutal. When it ended, only 3 of the Black Ops team were still breathing. Rowan stood over them, rifle hot. You're Earth's best, you're already dying. The crows don't need to touch you. You're killing each other. The soldier coughed blood. You're just a weapon-gone rogue. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Number, I'm a weapon that finally woke up. They didn't stay. The asteroid base was compromised. They took what gear they could, loaded back into the battered dropship, and jumped into deep space, uncharted territory, where Earth's dominion faltered. They didn't talk much, but they knew what they had to do now. They weren't just soldiers anymore. They were proof. Proof Earth wasn't the savior it pretended to be. Proof that the monsters weren't alien. They were human. Back on Earth, the story was rewritten, of course. The 104th Detachment were declared MIA. Yarneth 3 was labeled a successful purge of a dangerous insurgent threat. The Crows were never mentioned. The fleet's internal collapse blamed on massive solar flares causing psychogenic disruption. People believed it. They always did. The Sol Dominion moved on to the next system, the next target, the next reason to kill. But whispers spread, in pirate channels, among rebel warlords, even in Dominion barracks late at night when the lights were low. Whispers of the 104th, of what they saw, of what they became, and somewhere in the black dash. Rowan watched the stars drift by, waiting for Earth to send more warriors, because now he wasn't trying to stop the Crows. He was waiting to meet them again, not to kill them, but to understand them and maybe, just maybe, to become one. He sat alone at the edge of the ship's cargo bay, staring out through the narrow viewport at the endless stretch of black. Every few minutes, a distant star blinked. Every few hours, another crew member screamed in their sleep. Not because of dreams, but because of the silence between them. Thorn was deteriorating. The wounds from Yarneth 3 weren't just physical. Whatever the Crows did in that spire, it left marks behind that no needle could patch, and no drug could numb. Sometimes he'd wander the ship in a trance, whispering names no one recognized. Other times he'd just sit, staring at walls that didn't move. Rowan didn't stop him. He understood. Mace handled better, for now. He buried himself in weapons maintenance, in route calculations, in hacking old Dominion drones for fuel siphoning tools. But there was a twitch in his hand now, subtle but growing. The kind of twitch that didn't come from injury. It came from something inside, eating away, slow and hungry. "They're in our heads," Mace finally said, breaking the silence during a long drift between dead systems. "Still, even out here." Rowan didn't look at him. "I know. Not like voices, not always. But you remember that operation on Carrion 6? Rowan nodded slowly. "You ever think about the civilians we shot, Cap? The ones hiding in the irrigation pipes?" "Every day." But Rowan didn't say it. "They weren't even armed," Mace muttered. "I shot a kid. She had a doll. I didn't blink. I didn't think. Now I see her. Every damn night." Rowan exhaled through his nose. "They don't give medals for those parts. Number just ghosts." They drifted into the Shedar expanse, a dead zone of long-abandoned mining colonies and forgotten satellite rigs. It was the perfect graveyard to hide in. But they weren't the only ones hiding. Rowan noticed the ping first. A soft, slow echo. Not Dominion protocol. Not even human. It pulsed like a heartbeat, irregular and raw. Thorn called it out next. "We're not alone." The signal led them to a floating wreck, the Varan, an Earth salvage ship missing for 9 years, officially lost to pirates. The reality was worse. They latched the ship manually, docking with clunking joints and hissing clamps. Rowan led the way, rifle ready, visor lowered. The inside of the Varoon was dark, stale air, wires hung like entrails, signs of a firefight but no bodies. Until the bridge. There they found them, not dead, not alive. The crew sat in their chairs, hands still on consoles, eyes open, but their mouths were sewn shut. Literally. sealed with fine metallic thread, their bodies shriveled, dried out, like puppets long forgotten. Mace recoiled. This ain't natural. They weren't killed. They were preserved. Rowan moved toward the captain's chair. A small blinking light remained under the armrest, a data recorder still intact. He plugged it into his own visor feed. Video loaded. Day 7. Something's following us. No visuals, but we feel it. Can't sleep. Crew's seeing things. Day 12. We picked up a signal. Rhythmic. Feels like it's inside us now. Miller's the first to stop speaking. Says words don't belong to us anymore. Day 16. We stopped transmitting. We had to. They hear through language. They feed on it. We're going silent now. If you find this, don't speak. The recording ended in static. Rowan stepped back. A whisper tickled his ears. Too late. They returned to their own ship fast, but something had already come with them. The lights flickered, the air thinned, and Thorn was missing. Rowan found him in the cargo bay, curled into a ball, eyes rolled back. Mace hovered nearby, weapon drawn. He was speaking in something, not a language, more like echo. Rowan crouched down. Thorn. Thorn looked up and smiled. Not his smile, something behind it. You called them, he whispered. Every word you said since Yarnith. They heard it all, every cry, every regret. You didn't run from the crows, Rowan. You led them here. Rowan reached for his pistol. Thorn's eyes went wide. It's not me anymore. It's them. It's you. And then, without a sound, Thorn's body contorted. No blood, no gore, just a shiver, and he was gone, as if he folded into air. Rowan stared at the empty floor. No scream, no explanation, just silence. Mace stepped back. We're losing, Cap. Not just the war, ourselves. Rowan said nothing, because deep down, he agreed. They left the Shadar expanse fast. Rowan set course for a place only the 104th had ever gone. Station K-99, an old Dominion black site that was erased from records after the Red Memory Protocol. It wasn't supposed to exist. But Rowan had the coordinates burned into his mind, because that's where Earth first made contact with the Crows, before Yarneth, before any known war. Station K-99 was the birthplace of Earth's oldest lie, that they were the defenders of peace. Rowan needed answers, before the silence took him too. The station drifted in orbit around a dying star, its metal skeleton groaning from decades of heat and radiation. Docking was rough. Manual tethers, gravity at 30%. Inside, everything was still functional. That was the first warning sign. No dust, no decay, no corpses, just silence. They found the mainframe room after 30 minutes of exploring. Inside was a single operational console, still blinking with a green prompt. Rowan stepped up, fingers hesitant. Welcome back, Captain Rowan. His blood froze. Mace swore under his breath. How the hell does it know? Before Rowan could speak, the monitor changed. A video feed began, and they saw themselves. Rowan, Thorn, Mace, in Yarnith 3, in the Spire, then in deep space, then in the Varan. Footage from their own eyes. You are the broadcast, the computer said in a distorted female voice. You were never alone. You were the signal. Your memories, your language, your blood, it all carries the seed. The crows do not move. They do not fly. They grow. In men like you. Rowan backed away. The screen flickered again. Do you wish to see the truth? He hesitated, then typed, "Oui voyez." The room plunged into darkness. A hologram burst from the ceiling, showing Earth's early contact with alien life. Not peaceful, not diplomatic. Predatory. Earth offered protection, but only in exchange for control. Colonies were set up. Resources mined. Locals forced into compliance. Rebellions were silenced brutally. And then came the crows. No ships, no voices, just effects. They appeared only after Earth's wars, feeding on memories, on trauma, on the ripples of death. The Dominion knew. They knew since Station K-99. And they never stopped. Because they believed the crows were inevitable, a cost of being the apex. So instead of stopping them, Earth used them. Every war fed the machine. Every soldier became a carrier. Rowan stepped away from the console, trembling. "We're not soldiers," he whispered. "We're incubators." Mace stood frozen. "Then what do we do?" The answer wasn't easy, but it was clear. Rowan turned toward the reactor controls. "We burn the whole thing down." The air inside Station K-99 was growing hotter, the vents breathing in slower intervals, like the place itself was choking on the decades of secrets buried within. The deeper Rowan walked into the command levels, the more it felt like he was inside a machine trying to forget itself. A once proud Dominion outpost now rotting from the inside out, powered by the memories of dead men and fed by the silence of survivors. Mace followed close behind, his boots echoing against the metal floor, a silence between them that had lasted too long. Ever since the truth spilled from the mainframe that they were the broadcast, the virus, the trail of crumbs the crows had been waiting for, neither of them had spoken in more than commands. But the weight was in their eyes, in their breathing. This was no longer about war. This was about undoing themselves. Rowan paused at a rusted bulkhead door. Stenciled on it was a code he hadn't seen since the Mars clearance trials. Project Fathom, eyes forged in shadow. He keyed in the override. Hydraulics screamed. The door opened. Beyond it, a vertical shaft that dropped straight into the core of Station K-99. At the bottom, the artificial sun they called the Heart, a micro-reactor designed to simulate quantum matter collapse, meant for propulsion research, repurposed for something much darker. They rode the old cargo lift down, past flickering data cables and mangled scaffolding. "I don't know if this works," Mace muttered. "Even if we fry this reactor, even if we take out the station, the crows, whatever they aren't tied to one place." Rowan looked at him, jaw tight. "We're not trying to kill them." Mace frowned. "Then what the hell are we doing?" Rowan's voice was gravel. "We're cutting the signal." The Heart was still operational. That alone was disturbing enough. No technicians, no crews, no signs of human oversight. But the fusion sphere pulsed strong, suspended in magnetic fields above a pit of abyssal depth. All around it, hollow-eyed constructs stood motionless, part human, part machine. Earth soldiers, wired into the station, mouths sewn shut, skulls opened, exposing their neural cores. Their presence was a message. Earth had kept the broadcast alive, even after death. Rowan felt his knees tighten. They weren't just hiding this, they were using it, weaponizing what the crows fed on. Mace stared at the soldiers. "This is why they marked us dead before we even landed. Why they sent us. We weren't meant to survive Yarneth." "No," Rowan agreed. "Because if we survived, we'd ask questions." Mace turned. "And now," Rowan answered without hesitation, "we give them the answer they don't want." He moved to the override panel on the Heart's access hub. The console required dual authority. He entered his Dominion ID. Mace did the same. The station groaned in protest. A countdown began. 60 minutes until core overload. Sirens wailed, and lights turned crimson. They had 1 hour before the Heart turned the entire station, and its forbidden archives, into a glowing crater. The crows noticed immediately. Not with ships, not with weapons, but with memory. Rowan's mind was flooded. Not with pain, but with scenes. Snapshots. Every face he'd ever killed, every order he'd ever given that led to someone's death. Each memory sharpened and looped until it wasn't just memory. It was reality. He saw Thorn die again, this time screaming for help he never gave. He saw a mother in carry-on 6 holding her dead child. He saw himself. Laughing, and that broke him. He staggered to the floor, clutching his skull. Mace dropped beside him, shaking his shoulder. "Cap, they're in again." "I know," Rowan hissed. "I let them in." "What?" Rowan's eyes flared with clarity. "They've been feeding through us, through our guilt, our trauma, every kill we never questioned, but the moment we questioned it, that was the signal they feared." Mace blinked, uncertain. "You're saying regret weakens them?" "No." Rowan looked up. "Understanding does. Accepting what we are without letting it define us." He pushed himself up, breath ragged. "They want to keep us broken. We end them by taking back control." 30 minutes left. They moved to the uplink chamber. Every Dominion operation was logged here. Every massacre, every pacification of alien colonies. Footage never meant to be seen. Orders never meant to be heard. Rowan connected his HUD. The files streamed across his vision. Battles labeled as victories revealed as slaughters. Peace treaties sabotaged for resource gain. Refugee colonies bombed and blamed on rebels that never existed. Rowan didn't look away. He needed to feel it. Mace connected too. Neither man spoke for 5 minutes. When Mace finally did, his voice cracked. "All these years, we thought we were protecting humanity." Rowan turned to him. "We were protecting the lie. Then what are we now?" Rowan didn't hesitate. "The cure." 15 minutes left. They returned to the heart. The constructs were moving now, slow, shaky but aware. One stepped toward them, its voice dry, broken. "Do not end us. We are containment. We are silence. You let the noise back in, they will grow." Rowan raised his rifle. "You're already part of them." The construct tilted its head. "You are too." Then it lunged. Rowan fired once, straight through the exposed skull. The construct dropped. The others twitched. Mace shouted, "They're waking up!" A dozen pairs of sewn-shut eyes turned toward them. The constructs attacked. Rowan and Mace fought side by side, close quarters, brutal strikes. These things didn't bleed. They didn't scream. They just kept coming, like guilt incarnate, like every mistake they ever buried was fighting to stay alive. Rowan was cut across the ribs. Mace lost his sidearm. A construct grabbed him by the throat and hissed static into his face. Rowan jammed a thermal knife through its spine. 6 minutes left. Breathing hard, covered in black synthetic fluid, Rowan reached the final kill switch. "Once this goes," he said, "we won't get out." Mace leaned on a console. "You sure about this?" "No." Rowan smirked. "But I've never been sure of anything I survived either." He slammed the switch. The heart screamed. Reality twisted. They didn't die. Not the way they expected. The explosion never came. Instead, time stopped. Not in the physical sense, but mentally. Rowan blinked, and he was standing in a field. Green grass, clear skies, children playing. He recognized the place. It was Earth, home, long before war took him. And standing across from him was a man in a Dominion uniform. His own face, but younger. Untouched by horror. The crows had brought him here. To tempt him. To offer him a version of life before the monster. "You could have had this," the young Rowan said. "You could still. Just walk away. Let the station live. Let the broadcast continue. Be part of something greater." Rowan stepped closer and looked himself in the eye. "I am part of something greater." He pulled the trigger. The dream shattered. Back in reality, the heart surged with light. But this time it didn't explode. It inverted. Light collapsed inward. A singularity of memory compressed and folded into itself. Then, black. Rowan awoke on the edge of the station, blinking through helmet cracks. Alarms were dead. The heart was gone, not destroyed, erased, like it never existed. Beside him, Mace stirred. "Did we make it?" Rowan sat up, groaning. "Number, but we made something." They limped to the control deck. The constructs were all motionless again. Shut down, no signs of life. But the Dominion was coming. Rowan could see the ships blinking in the distance. They'd been watching, waiting for failure. "Let them come," Rowan muttered. Mace narrowed his eyes. "What now?" Rowan's gaze was iron. "Now we give them something they can't ignore." He uploaded the station logs. Everything. To every channel. Not just to rebels or pirates. To the people. To Earth itself. The truth spread faster than the Dominion could censor it. Whispers became headlines. Headlines became riots. Families of soldiers started asking where their sons had gone. Old colonies rebelled. And the name of the 104th, once erased, returned. Not as war heroes, but as witnesses. Not of victory, but of the cost. They didn't go back. Rowan and Mace vanished into the star lanes, jumping from system to system, hunted by every Dominion tracker with a badge and a gun. But they didn't care, because something had changed. The crows no longer whispered. They were silent. Not because they were gone, but because now they were waiting, not for monsters, but for men like Rowan. Men who could carry their story without fear. The Dominion didn't waste time. 2 weeks after Rowan's broadcast detonated across the galactic grid, Earth sent its answer. Not with words, not with denials, with cleansing fire. The official term was Operation Reinstate, but to the colonies watching from afar, it was simpler than that. Purge. They started in the fringe worlds, the ones where whispers of the 104th had grown into chants, and chants had become protests. Any system caught, even viewing the broadcast, was flagged. Within 48 hours, drones followed. Then came orbitals, then troops. No arrests, no trials, just silence. Every rebel that once supported Rowan's message now had a bounty on their head. 10 million credits for Rowan himself. 5 for Mace. Thorne's name was still tagged as MIA, but the reports claimed he had been compromised by non-terrestrial psychological warfare agents, which was their fancy way of saying, he saw the truth, and we don't want that spreading. But the damage was already done. Across the stars, fear of the crows turned to fascination, then to belief. And for Earth, that was the real threat. Rowan sat on the edge of a torn crate inside a dim-lit cargo freighter drifting low orbit above planet Ghent 7, one of the few remaining free stations not flagged by Dominion beacons. Mace had just returned from a failed supply run, empty-handed and out of breath. "No one's trading with us anymore," Mace said, slamming his gloves on the console. "They're all scared. Some think we're cursed. Others think if they help us, the Dominion's gonna nuke their families." Rowan didn't move. He just stared at the static-filled transmission on the screen in front of him. Footage of another burned colony. Ash falling like snow. Children with blank eyes. The kind of thing you didn't come back from. "You ever wonder if they were right?" Mace said, voice low. "The crows. That we're the infection. That it's not even about guilt anymore. That we're just toxic to everything." Rowan didn't look away. "We were built to be toxic. That was the point. I didn't sign up to poison the galaxy." Rowan turned, voice sharp. "Did you sign up to kill a teenage sniper in a refugee camp on Elixion too?" Mace froze. Rowan stood slowly. "We all thought we were the scalpel. Clean, precise, doing what soft men couldn't. But Earth built us like a club, something they could swing hard and fast, then hide when it got bloody." Mace exhaled, throat tight. "So what now? We run until they catch us? Until we starve out here?" "No," Rowan said. "We make sure they can't hide anymore." They needed help. but not from politicians or rebels. They needed someone louder than them. So they went to Axel Verdun, former warlord, broadcast pirate, and certified maniac with a history of turning Dominion tech into weapons-grade media. Axel ran a floating junkyard called the Grave Choir, an orbital scrapyard turned fortress, surrounded by fields of broken satellites and jamming beacons. He hadn't picked a side in decades. He just picked fights. He welcomed them with a smile full of teeth and a pistol aimed directly at Rowan's chest. "Thought you were dead, Captain," Axel said. "Then again, I thought I was God once, too. That was 3 planets and 1 ex-wife ago." Rowan didn't flinch. "We've got something bigger than God." "Yeah? Bigger than me? Shit, that is serious." Mace pulled a data spike from his belt. "Footage from Station K-99. Core logs. Dominion war crimes. Proof they knew about the Crows since before first contact." Axel twirled the pistol, eyes gleaming. "You boys want to blow the veil wide open, huh? Doomsday gospel across every open comm link?" Rowan nodded. "You've got the reach. And you've got the death wish. We'll settle for justice." Axel paused, then holstered the pistol. "I'll need 5 days to build the chain. Bypass their sweepers, bounce it through a dozen neutral networks. After that, it goes galaxy-wide. Even the clean suits on Europa won't be able to unsee it." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "You sure it can't be traced back?" Axel grinned. "Cap, I once hijacked the Dominion Emperor's birthday broadcast and replaced it with footage of me pissing in a top hat. You're talking to a professional." 3 days in, the Dominion found them. A stealth cruiser pierced the Grave Choir's decaying junk field, using fractured sat rings as cover. The ship launched without warning. No demands, no questions, just torpedoes. The Grave Choir shuddered from the impact. Sections collapsed. Oxygen screamed through split hulls. Alarms blared across the station. Rowan and Mace grabbed gear and ran toward the control chamber. Axel was already there, cursing over a tangled mass of wires. "I got 90% of the spike loaded," he shouted. "But I need a damn minute to finish the feed chain." Rowan fired through the window slit at a squad of boarding troopers rappelling down from the ceiling breach. "You've got 30 seconds. Mace dragged a cable drum across the floor, using it for cover. "If they get to that core, this whole message dies with us." Axel smashed a fist into a manual lever. "Messages live in 25 systems. Once I finish the last hop, it goes permanent." Rowan dropped 2 soldiers, then tackled a third trying to flank Axel. His hands were shaking now, not from fear, but fury. Fury at how easy it was for Earth to erase people, to bomb stories, to delete truth like a corrupted file. He slammed a combat knife into the last attacker's neck. Blood hissed across the floor. Axel screamed, "We're live!" A blast of static burst from the wall panels. All across the system, then beyond, Rowan's broadcast lit up terminals. Axel smiled even as a Dominion drone fired straight through his stomach. He dropped, bleeding out with a satisfied grin. Rowan grabbed the console and hit one final key. Send to all. The data spread like wildfire. K-99, Yarneth, the Varun, the truth of the Crows. Rowan's voice narrated it. Raw, angry, honest. Not polished, not politically clean, just real. And in that rawness, people listened. Within hours, 5 Dominion colonies went dark in protest. Within days, uprisings began. And across every Dominion fleet, soldiers began to ask questions. That was what Earth feared most. Not rebellion, but doubt. Mace dragged Rowan out of the burning station. They didn't speak for hours. They found a derelict mining hauler, hijacked it, and set course for deep space again. But something felt different now. A weight shifted. For the first time, they weren't running. They were waiting, and the galaxy was watching. Rowan leaned back in the pilot's seat, blood drying on his arm, ribs cracked from the fight. Mace glanced over. You think it's over? Rowan shook his head. It's just beginning. Mace exhaled, chuckled once. Still got that Dominion bounty. They'll throw whole fleets at us now. Rowan turned toward him, eyes tired but alive. Let them. Somewhere in the black, a crow ship stirred. It had not moved since the fall of Yarnith, but now it unfolded from its cloaking shell, not to feed, not to chase, but to listen. Because finally, Earth's monsters were not just killers, they were witnesses. The stars were never silent again. Not after the broadcast. Rowan could feel it in the airwaves, every transmission crackling with tension, with rumor, with revolt. Planets he'd never heard of were now lighting up Dominion channels like wildfire. Protests on urban moons, riots inside military installations, even quiet colonies, the kind that used to wave Earth's flag like gospel, were starting to raise questions. And Earth responded the only way it knew how, with steel, with flame, with orders signed in blood. Rowan sat in the captain's chair of the stolen hauler, watching from orbit as another Dominion cruiser hovered over a planet below. Aurelia Prime, once a hub of commerce, now labeled an internal threat. Civilians packed into underground vaults. Soldiers marched door to door under pretext of containment. He didn't even need comms to know what was coming next. Mace stood at his side, helmet off, jaw locked. We should do something. Rowan didn't answer. Because he'd learned something in the last few weeks. This wasn't a war. This was a reckoning. You couldn't shoot your way through something like this. But you could burn the right fuse. He reached into his chest rig and pulled out a small black cube. The final piece of K-99's archive. He hadn't transmitted it. Not yet. This wasn't for the people. This was for the Dominion. A kill switch, encoded with the names, orders, and biometric signatures of every Earth general, admiral, and high-ranking executive that had signed off on the Crow operations. Some of them were already dead. Most were still in power. It was the one thing Rowan hadn't released. Because this wasn't evidence, it was leverage, and he finally had a reason to use it. The Dominion didn't wait long to respond. Less than 12 hours after Aurelia's suppression order was signed, the Oathkeeper arrived in low orbit, a high black assassin ship, rarely seen, never mentioned. When an Oathkeeper deployed, it wasn't to negotiate, it was to erase. 3 sleek pods launched from its belly, piercing the void toward Rowan's stolen ship. They didn't bother broadcasting their demands. These men were operatives, trained killers bred in the same pits where the 104th was forged. But colder, more efficient, unburdened by memory, conditioned not just to survive, but to purge history itself. Rowan stood in the center of the hauler's cargo bay, body armor strapped tight, rifle slung, blade sheathed at his hip. Mace checked their remaining gear. 4 charges, 3 rifles, 2 sidearms, no backup. Rowan muttered, 3 incoming. Fast, tactical insertions. Mace nodded. Probably ex-shadow teams. They'll want us alive, for a minute, long enough to interrogate. Then, recycle. Rowan gave a small nod, voice low. Let's not give them that minute. The first pod sliced through the hauler's hull like a scalpel, lodging into the central walkway with a hiss of released pressure. Rowan moved before the hatch could open. He tossed a flash charge directly into the entry point and dropped to a knee. Boom. The hatch blew inward as the charge detonated, white light and concussive shock disorienting the first operative. Rowan fired once, then again. First shot took the man's leg at the knee. The second hit him center mass through the armor's weak seam. No screams, just dead silence. The second pod tore through the medbay, shattering everything inside. Mace met the next operative head-on, sidearm blazing, retreating to the control room. He hit the emergency decompression seal, luring the intruder into the medical chamber before venting it into vacuum. A human body went flying into space. 2 down. But the third was the worst. He didn't come in guns blazing. He came silent. A shadow in the ship's lower hold, bypassing every trap, every signal tripwire. Rowan didn't know he was inside until the lights dimmed and the air went still. Then Mace dropped. Hard. His body crumpled against the bulkhead with a sickening thud, blood leaking from the side of his helmet. Rowan turned just in time to see the assassin behind him. No armor, no helmet, just pale skin, sharp eyes, and a blade in his hand that wasn't made of metal. It was obsidian, Dominion grade, laced with memory-reactive nanoweave, a Crow-born relic. This assassin hadn't come to kill Rowan. He'd come to deliver a message. "You shouldn't have shown them," he said, voice like gravel underwater. "Now they'll never stop screaming." Rowan's blade met his. The clash was instant, raw, brutal, personal. No bullets, no tech. Just 2 ghosts locked in a dance that had started long before either of them were born. Rowan fought like a man who knew he wouldn't win. But he didn't need to. He just needed to delay. And when the assassin finally pinned him, blade pressed against his neck, Rowan smiled. "I sent the rest," he whispered. The assassin's eyes twitched. "What?" Rowan's forearm clamped around the detonator switch on his wrist. He clicked it. A transmission burst from the hauler, bouncing across open Dominion frequencies. Not a broadcast, just a single encrypted message, sent directly to the Dominion Council, and it said, "Release the past, or we will." Attached, the kill switch archive. The assassin didn't kill him. He vanished, just disappeared, as if he was never real to begin with. Rowan staggered to his feet and crawled to Mace. The man was still alive, barely. "Still breathing, you bastard," Rowan muttered. Mace coughed blood. "Of course I am. I'm too pissed to die." The message worked, not because the Dominion wanted peace, but because the Council wanted to survive. The archive, if made public, wouldn't just collapse Earth's command structure. It would collapse faith in the Dominion, in the fleet, in the stories they told their children. So Earth made a choice. They pulled back, issued a statement denying the 104th's existence, blaming rogue AIs for the K-99 archives, branding Rowan a false construct designed by anarchist data saboteurs. They discredited him, but they stopped chasing, stopped purging, and they started talking. Rowan knew it wouldn't last, but it was a beginning. Weeks later, they found a quiet planet. Dusty, dry, no tech, no name, just peace. Mace recovered, though he limped now. Rowan built a fire every night and stared at the stars. Not because he expected to see crow ships, but because he wondered what they were waiting for now. He knew they were still out there, and he wasn't afraid anymore. He finally understood. The crows didn't want to end humanity. They wanted to see if it could change. And maybe, just maybe, Rowan had shown them a reason to wait. They had disappeared, not by dying, not by surrendering, but by choosing to be forgotten. Rowan and Mace lived like shadows now, embedded deep in the belly of an unnamed dust planet orbiting a collapsed dwarf star. No signals, no surveillance, no dominion. Just dust, dry wind, and firelight. Their ship had been buried under rocks and steel, stripped of everything but its core module. If someone ever found it, it would look like nothing more than a broken relic of the silent rebellion. They were ghosts again, but this time, by choice. Mace's limp had worsened. The injury from the assassin's blade had severed deep tissue, and the makeshift treatment only delayed the damage. He didn't complain. never did. But Rowan saw it in his walk, slow, dragging, the kind of pain that went bone deep. "You ever think we should have let it all burn?" Mace asked one night as they sat by the fire. "Sent the kill switch to the public. Let Earth collapse on its own guilt?" Rowan stared into the flames, silent. Then, "We didn't stop the fire. We just aimed it." "That's not justice," Mace muttered. "No," Rowan said. "It's survival. Justice is what comes next." The next morning, Rowan woke up before dawn. The sky was a pale red bruise across the horizon. Something was wrong. Not in the air, in his bones. He stepped outside their shelter and felt it. Pressure, not gravitational, psychological, like 1,000 eyes watching from just outside human perception. Then, a whisper. Not a sound, not a word. A memory. Yarnith. The pit. The brain. The truth. They were here. Rowan didn't call for Mace. He just walked, past the ridge, over the rocks, to a clearing where nothing should have existed. And yet it did. A structure, standing silent, perfectly circular. Matte black, 10 meters tall, identical to the first spire on Yarnith 3. The crows had come. But not as conquerors. As witnesses. Rowan stepped closer. The structure opened, not violently, not dramatically. It simply folded, like it had been expecting him all along. Inside, nothing. Just a smooth floor, curved walls, no interface, until he stepped in. Then the chamber shifted. Lightless, weightless. And then he saw them. Not bodies, not beings, just presence, like reflections that didn't belong to him. Hundreds of figures standing in a line, stretching into eternity. Some looked like soldiers, some looked like victims, some like him. And one stepped forward. Not a crow, not human, just formless emotion given shape. "You have shown us fracture," it said. "A break in the cycle." Rowan didn't speak. "Earth created monsters. You made silence, then broke it. Others are watching." Rowan finally asked, "Why show yourselves now?" The shape didn't move. "You were never meant to see us, not at the start. But now, the signal is yours." Images flashed around him, faster than thought. Planets rising, falling, governments dissolving, empires built on myth, and in everyone the same thread, control through fear, power through silence. Then, a voice, his own, broadcasting the K-99 archive, broadcasting truth. "You are not forgiven," the presence said, "but you are heard." Rowan nodded once. That was enough. He walked out of the spire hours later, or maybe minutes. Time didn't behave inside that place. Mace was waiting near the ridge, pistol ready. Rowan held up a hand. "It's done." "You saw them?" "They saw me." Mace looked at the spire. "What now?" Rowan didn't answer right away. Then, "We go back." Mace blinked. "Back? To what? Earth still wants our heads. The fleet's fractured. The colonies think we're ghost stories." "That's exactly why we go back," Rowan said. "We disappear now. It's just another forgotten myth. Another rumor Earth can bury." He looked out across the burning horizon. "But if we walk back through the fire, if they see us standing, they'll know the story isn't over." Mace cracked a small, bitter grin. "You really want to die on a live feed?" Rowan's voice was cold steel. "Number, I want them to watch what they made. It took weeks to build a signal array strong enough to cut through Dominion static fields. They used scavenged parts from the spire, fused Earth tech with Crow architecture, even though it made their eyes bleed to look at it too long. On the final day, Rowan cleaned his armor, old 104th plating, scratched and dented, but whole. Mace did the same, though slower. Breath labored. When they stood side by side in front of the makeshift camera, it wasn't as soldiers anymore. It was as warnings. Rowan pressed the record button. This is Captain Rowan, former 104th Detachment, once a monster, still a man. You lied to us. You made us kill. You hid the truth and called it patriotism. We found the silence you buried. We let it speak. Now the whole galaxy listens." He stepped closer, voice lowering. "We are not your ghosts anymore. We are your reflection. If we can change, then maybe so can you. If not," he stared straight into the feed, "then we'll be waiting." He ended the transmission and sent it to everyone, not just the Dominion, but every fleet, every colony, every hidden rock that still remembered what Earth did in the dark. That was the last official footage ever seen of the 104th. They were never found. Not by Dominion sweeps, not by Crow ship scanners, not by Rebel probes. Some say they were erased by Earth's kill teams within days. Others claim they joined the Crows, became part of something no human had ever been allowed to understand. But in time, the war began to change. Earth's grip loosened, the Dominion fractured, not because of armies, but because belief broke. The stories no longer held. The heroes looked more like monsters. And the monsters? They started to look like men. Years later, in a classroom on a colony that used to fear Earth, a child would ask, "Did the 104th really kill thousands?" And the teacher would reply, with a heavy pause, "They did, and they paid for everyone." Then a second question. Were they the bad guys? And the teacher would look out the window, past the stars, and say, "No. They were the mirror.